Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to FSPN. My name is Frankie from Flatbush, and today, I have some exciting news to bring to you, the New York Jet fan, because I figured it out. Yeah, I figured it out. I figured out why it is we signed a bunch of bums to play in the middle of our defense. hmm those who have been following Frankie from Flatbush for a while may have noticed I was critical, complaining, not happy with some of the signings we made at defensive tackle and said, hey, wait a minute, Mr. Aaron Glenn, and wait a minute, Mr. Darren Moji, and wait a minute, Mr. Steve Wilkes. We got a problem. We got a problem. If all we have is a 4-3 like Sala and Ulbrich ran, and we got these bums playing it, we got a problem because teams are just going to run right up the middle. They're going to run duo. They're going to run through the A gap, through the B gap. Bye-bye. See you later. And it's going to be very hard to watch as we watch other teams gouge us right up the middle. But to my surprise, okay, I have been doing research and I found out something that I think you're going to like. As we take a look at what the hell we are going to do with this defense. Now, I hadn't been able to do this research before. I had a bunch of projects, as you know, those who follow closely. But now those projects are done, and now I can focus on football. And guess what? I found out something great. So we're going to get into that. But first, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get up to 1,000. Will we get there? I don't know. But we'd like your help with that. If you like what I do, please hit the subscribe button. It is free. And at the very least, please hit the like button. How about that? If you want to go further, if you got some money you want to burn, join one of the inner circle, inner square, inner triangle levels of membership. That goes a long way to help me continue to put stuff out. Now, what we're going to do to figure out what we're going to do on this defense is we're going to look at the Lions defense from last year. And we're going to assume that we're going to do something at least similar to what the Lions did last year. Makes sense, right? Aaron Glenn came from the Lions. He's probably going to do something similar at least with this team. And that's all we can go on. He hasn't started coaching the Jets yet, so we got to make use of that. So let's take a look at two things basically here. Now, what we're looking at here is EPA. Now, what is EPA? Expected points added. And this is probably the best measure of your effectiveness on a play-by-play basis. It's similar to how I do my drive charts and then score the games in terms of giving every play a score in how you did. The biggest example is if you run the same running play up the middle and get 4 yards, if you just looked at it, you say, well, that's exactly the same. You ran 2 plays, the exact same play, you got 4 yards each time. That's equal. That's exactly the same, isn't it? Well, no, because on one play it was 3rd down and 1, and on another play it was 3rd down and 10. And if it's 3rd and 1 and you get 4 yards, that's very, very different than if it's 3rd down and 10 and you get 4 yards, even if it's the same exact play with the same exact result, right? So that's what things like EPA try to measure, and they do a good job of it. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at the defense. We're looking at this column all the way over here. And this is EPA per play, rush and pass. So this is how good were you as a defense overall, basically. And the best team, according to this, on defense last year was the Denver Broncos. And I think eye test would tell you, yeah, they were really good. The Eagles, were they good? Yeah, they won the Super Bowl. Pretty good. Vikings, okay. Brian Flores, how did they look? They were looking pretty good. Packers, they were looking good. Chargers, surprisingly, maybe in there. And then here's the old Lions. So Aaron Glenn and the Lions had the 6th best defense in all of football last year. Sounds pretty good to me. And that's with all of the injuries that they had. The last 4 games of the year, they kind of fell off a little bit, or they would have been even better. But they had tons and tons and tons of injuries, including to superstars, and it's hard to overcome those if you're curious. Not sure why this is popping up, but okay. The Jets are all the way down here. So we were not good last year. Regardless of how many yards, that's why you can't go by yards. We were not good. Okay, some of these teams that were supposed to have good defenses, Cowboys, Patriots traditionally do, You know, 49ers, this is why what's his name got fired, and they brought in Robert Saleh. They think he's going to solve the problem. I think they have a surprise coming, but this is where we are. So we were not good on defense at all, and I've been trying to tell people about it. They didn't want to hear it, but the Lions are right here. So that's just an overall view of how Aaron Glenn performed as the defensive coordinator last year of the Lions. So what can we expect this year? Well, this is Match Quarters Substack. I would highly recommend checking this out if you're a football fan. It is. You do have to pay for it. There's a free version, of course, but for the most part, it helps to pay for it. I would recommend it. Match Quarters. This is Coach Cody Alexander. And it's mostly almost all focused on defense in this particular publication. So it says the Detroit Lions hybrid base package. Hybrid base package. Ooh, this is getting Frankie excited. Unpacking the Lions' defensive philosophy. Well, that's a little small. And how hybrid players. Hybrid players? What? Remember, in the last 4 years, Saleh and Ulbrich told us we want simplicity. We want to keep it simple for people. They thought that was the way to do it. You just do something simple. That's your job. That's it. Here we're seeing hybrid players and a unique approach. Well, that's very interesting. So what are they talking about? Base. How low can you go? Now, no one played more base defensive snaps than the Detroit Lions. Base means there's only two base alignments, 4-3 or 3-4, regardless of how often you're in nickel or anything else. Base is a term that means either 4-3 or 3-4. In our case, we're going to be technically a 4-3 and have been. But even though their base is a 4-3 and ours was, you're often in nickel 75, 80% of the time. Here, they're saying that the Lions were in base, meaning the third linebackers on the field, 44% of the time. Very high. No one did. They're the highest in the league. So what does that mean for us? If we have a same philosophy, that means that, guess what? Our third linebacker then becomes very, 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 very important. Who is our third linebacker? We know two of our linebackers, Quincy Williams and Jamian Sherwood, but who's the third one? Well, if I had to guess, I would say probably former first-round pick Jamin Davis, but we'll have to see. Now, blah, 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 blah. Okay, here's the coverage matrix. You can see what they did. The blue line is what the Lions did. The gray line is the NFL average. So they were in cover 1 35.2% of the time, way, way, way more than the average. And that's what I think we're going to be in. In cover one is a man coverage with one safety in the middle of the field closed. So that means you better have big, long, tall, disruptive corners. Do we have that? Yep. So Sauce Gardner, the way you were in college, up on the man, disrupting them with your hands. Guess what? You're going to go back to that, buddy. So that's good news for Saucy. And also good news probably for Brandon Stevens as well. And then quarters will be probably our second most used. You can see they were above average there as well, and everything else they were either at or below the NFL average. So I think we're going to see a lot of cover 1. Now, this article says a lot of things, but here's where it gets interesting. Glenn evolved the Detroit defense by implementing schematic fluidity. Wow. Now you're getting Frankie excited. We're gonna implement schematic fluidity. This is a complete and total 180 from Dum Dum Saleh and Dum Dum Ulbrich, and they're keep it simple. The players can't adjust to anything. We've got to keep it simple. The players are too stupid to figure it out if we change anything. No, we're going to get really smart players in here. And if they can't handle the mental load, we'll get them out of here. And but we need to. So the reason I love this, as opposed to the old way of just keep it simple and do it better than the other guy and just beat your guy. I mean, the Salah Ulbrich philosophy requires you to have all pro level players at so many positions, almost all of them, that it's very unlikely you're going to be able to have that many people who are just awesome on your team. It's really dependent upon having elite players everywhere. What team can have elite players everywhere? And even if you start the season that way, injuries are a huge deal in the NFL. So now you lose your elite players and it's all over. You go home. That's stupid. No, I want some schematic fluidity. That's because that's one thing. And then secondly is the ubiquity of tape. Tape is everywhere these days. Okay? We have everybody, the minute you do something, everybody knows about it the next minute. Because tape is everywhere. I have tape, you have tape, we can all look at tape. Everybody. So you think the NFL doesn't pour over tape? I mean, a coach's job these days is watching tape. That's what they do. And so if you're just doing the same thing over and over, you're making it real easy for the opposing coaches to beat you. Again, unless you have elite players everywhere, they're going to look at the holes on your defense, find out where they are, and attack them because they know you're not going to change. So, but if we're schematically fluid, now you got to keep them guessing. They don't know exactly what you're doing. So I think in the modern era, schematic fluidity is the way to go. You need smart players. You got to get the right people. But once you have them, and especially if you have depth, then you protect yourself from injury a bit. I mean, it's always bad when your starters go down, don't get me wrong, but you're more protected in terms of injury. And then, in addition to that, you make it harder to prepare against you. So that's why I like it. Throughout the season, the Lions' base defense illustrated that it wasn't a limited package. Glenn could run most of the split field coverages found in the sub packages in base. He even utilized common spread defensive elements like the tight front, even though the Lions 3-4 was on the field. This is what I was saying. I actually said several times on air that maybe we're going to do something crazy like a tight front out of a 4-3. Here it is right here. Boom. 2024 also serves as a foundation for what the Jets defense might look like. Yeah, no kidding. So let's dive into. So this goes into a lot of different things, and gets pretty technical, and I'm not going to go into the whole thing. But what I am going to do right now is bring this up here. Now, let's take a look at this, shall we? What we have here is sort of a 4I0. So what do you call a 404? So here's a Lee McNeil. Here's Levi Onwuzurike. Here's the nose tackle. Now, what I want to point out here, and here's all the way out here is Aiden, so there are some wide nine principles as well. They put Hutch way out here, and this is Derek Barnes, the linebacker. So we got 5 people technically on the front. We got the 4 DBs back here. This is Malcolm Rodriguez. If you get that reference, good for you. And this is Alex Anzalone, and he's looking for a new contract now, but that's not important. Now, what is important here is look at this man. Okay, the nose tackle, the zero tech. The last 4 years, we did not play zero tech very much at all. Now we are, I would bet, and that explains why we signed dem bums. Because in this defense, they're not going to be bums. What they are going to be is sacrificial lambs. So you need somebody to play here, but they're not going to be the superstar. They're not going to make a lot of tackles. They're not going to get a lot of glory out of it. And they're basically just going to hold up the center and probably, maybe they'll run a 1 gap or 2 gap. They're basically a sacrificial lamb in this defense. And we're going to move these people around. The superstars are going to be here and here and a little bit here and here, but that's going to be a big difference, how we align these defensive linemen. So this is sort of like 3-4 principles with an extra guy out here. It's how you could look at it. It's kind of interesting. And then you have this player here who is basically going to do sim or actually come and give pressure or do a simulated pressure. So again, this is deception. And then they do some stuff on the back end, which we won't get into. But the bottom line is, look, we're going to have a much more deceptive defense, or at least try to. We'll see if it works. But we're going to have a much more deceptive defense. And here you see what happened, right? Barnes, Derek Barnes, the linebacker. This will be, Quincy for us. Derek Barnes will be Quincy, pretty much. Anzalone will be Sherwood, and Rodriguez will be Jamin Davis. This is probably Quincy. He could pass rush. What he's trying to do here is occupy the tackle by simulating pressure and take him out sort of the blocking play to make him think he's going to have to block Barnes, but he's not. Watch 55. See, he's getting ready to block Barnes, but Barnes is already getting ready to what? Bail. Then he bails out, and that bailing out, if you notice what Stafford did, it took away this lane, this passing lane here. And a lot of times in football, you're thinking about triangles on defense. Here's a triangle. Here's a triangle. Now he's going to look over here. This is a mess. I don't like this. There's too many numbers. And it just turns into a four-man pressure, but with deception. A little bit of deception. People dropping out. Now, this play was an incredible play by Anzalone with his eyes. He sees that Stafford's hips are turning and also sees the back releasing, and he knows, oh, crap, that's mine. That's my responsibility. I better get over there. And a little bit of hesitation allows him to make a great tackle, right? So that's what we can look forward to. I think this is going to be exciting. So I think with this, I actually have some hope that our defense might be better than what I was thinking it would be. And if that's the case, hey, that'll be a much more exciting season. It'll give us a shot to actually win some games. So basically, we need to think about who's going to be our third string linebacker. If we're going to play that much base, the third linebacker becomes much more important. Who is that, and how good is he? So let's watch that in camp. Camp opens tomorrow, pretty much. So we're going to want to try and figure out who's looking like the third linebacker. Is it Davis? Is it somebody else? Kiko? And then we're going to have schematic fluidity. So we're going to have to watch that, and I'm going to keep an eye in the preseason about this schematic fluidity. How am I going to do my drive charts? How am I going to figure out what we're doing? That'll be interesting. And how effective is it, of course, and we can just use our eyes for that. And then third, that nose tackle. That nose tackle position, Nadi, Cowart, Tufele, they're just sacrificial lambs. So we signed people who aren't going to cost a lot of money because they're just sacrificial lambs. It's an important sacrifice. They have to be sacrificed for the defense to work, but you can't exactly, pay somebody a lot of money and tell them, listen, you're not going to get any statistics. You're not going to get any sacks. You're not going to get any tackles. You're just going to basically hold the line of scrimmage and block and try and make a tackle every once in a while. It's not very glorious, but that explains why we signed those guys. We need them to do a job. It's not a very high profile job, but listen, you get to play in the NFL. Hey. All right, so exciting news about our defense, everybody. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section down below. As I said earlier in the video, please subscribe to the channel, or at least give me a thumbs up. Consider joining the membership area thing. And with all that being said, I'll see you next time.